a little bit of background on the first speaker, Ken Breslauer. He's a leading authority on Florida roadside attractions and travel souvenirs. He's a graduate of the University of West Florida in Pensacola and earned a master's degree in historic preservation from Goucher College in Baltimore. His book, Roadside Paradise, The Golden Age of Florida's Tourist Attractions, 1929 to 71, was the first book to document the history of roadside attractions in Florida. His next book, Florida Travel Souvenirs, The Material Culture of Florida Vacations, is scheduled for publication next year. For the past 28 years, he's served as communications director and track historian at Sebring International Raceway. His book, Sebring, The Official History of America's Greatest Sports Car Race, won the 1996 Automotive Book of the Year Award. He grew up in Delray Beach, Florida, and now resides in St. Petersburg. He maintains a popular Facebook page, Historic St. Petersburg. So, Mr. Breslauer.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to St. Petersburg. I'm proud to say I'm a native Floridian and a 30-year resident of St. Petersburg, and it is a fabulous place to live, and I hope you all have had a good time here so far. My presentation is called Bring Your Camera, Florida Tourist Attraction Signs and Entrances, and I'm going to just give you a brief photographic journey through some of our historic Florida roadside attractions with emphasis on the signs and the entrances. Now, I've collected thousands of images of Florida attractions over the years, and the one probably most common unifying theme is the most important sign that you'll ever see, and that's the Welcome to Florida sign. It's amazing how many people use that as a photo op in the early days of Florida tourism. Probably not a good idea to do that nowadays with the interstate highways and so forth. But back then, it was a thing to do. This is a kind of interesting photo because you can see all the little messages people wrote when they arrived. Here's Thelma and Louise. But you can see that the adventure started when you crossed the state line coming to Florida. It really was an important part of someone's journey. It marked the beginning of their adventure and was certainly a great photo op. Just very briefly, I'm going to talk about the welcome stations that we had in Florida. In the 40s and 50s, there were 7 welcome stations along the northern border between Georgia and Alabama, obviously before interstate highways. And this was always a very important stop and photo op for tourists coming to Florida. Get your coupon for a free glass of orange juice. And the architecture of these was really interesting. The photo in the upper right was actually predates the welcome stations. There was a Florida, quote, official tourist bureau, and these were located actually throughout the state. I don't think they actually were officially associated with the state, but this was another common roadside scene when you entered the state. Now, I'm going to talk about roadside attraction signs first. They kind of intermingle with entrances. I've separated them for the purpose of this presentation, but a lot of times they're one and the same. This is a great photo of the Wakulla Springs entrance, which is just south of Tallahassee. And yes, those are 21 live females standing there. They didn't have to do that all day, by the way. But this is a clever photo op they did to promote the attraction. One of my favorites is Flamingo Groves. Flamingo Gardens is still a very nice attraction. It's located in Davie, Florida, near Fort Lauderdale. And they had some great signs and, of course, the giant flamingo. And you're going to see this giant animal theme obviously repeated as we go on. This sign is here in St. Petersburg, Sunken Gardens entrance sign. And this is actually a very significant sign. It was featured on the cover of Signs of the Times trade magazine back in the 60s due to its outstanding design. And the sign fell into disrepair over the years, and I was very grateful that when the city purchased the attraction, they did recreate and restore the sign. And it's still there, and it looks great. And I'm glad they did that. This was the entrance sign to Caribbean Gardens in Naples, which is now known as the Naples Zoo. The sign is gone now, but it was a landmark on US 41, which is the Tamiami Trail for many years. And the toucan is still with us. It's actually in the garden section of the zoo now on display, and there's a little sign that tells about the artist who designed it and so forth. So some people at least are preserving some of the landmark signs. The top sign is from Africa, USA, which was in Boca Raton from 1954 to 1961. It's probably the most wordy sign you've ever seen, but nevertheless, it's a very attractive sign. I grew up in Boca Raton, and I vaguely remember this attraction, but it was actually a very significant attraction. It was the first outdoor zoo, if you will, where all the animals roamed free, and really set the stage for what we consider now as the right way to display animals. All right, bigger is better, and these two signs display that. With all due respect to the Golden Arches at McDonald's, I think the Shell Factory did a good job on that. This is in Fort Myers on US 41, and it's still there. It still looks the same. Dogland was a very obscure attraction in Chiefland, Florida, which is near the Swanee River, up on Highway 19, and that was their landmark entrance sign. That closed in 1972. Keeping with the big animal theme of the bigger is better, the top left is from the entrance sign at Phosphate Valley Exposition in Bartow on Highway 60, which was a very short-lived attraction, which was about the phosphate industry, which I'm sure was very exciting. The right side photo is one of many entrances to Silver Springs. In the 60s, you saw entrances become these very gaudy, kind of contrived type signs, but the glass bottom boat at the very top of that sign is on display now in the museum at Silver Springs. For those of you that aren't aware, Silver Springs closed last October and is now a state park, but it was, and I still think is, the greatest Florida attraction. This is a fantastic place to go if you've never been there. Becoming a state park obviously is a good thing long term, but I highly recommend it if you have a chance. On the bottom left, this is kind of an interesting sign. I grew up almost across the street from this. This was in Boca Raton as well. This is, there was an attraction called Ancient America in the late 50s, which closed, but the big sailing ship remained there on US 1 for years, and it became the community signpost, if you will. We would spray paint, congratulations to so-and-so on their child or their marriage or whatever. It was really a neat thing. It was kind of a self-policed sign that we always did, and now that is gone. That's now the entrance to one of those gated communities where all the homes are like $1 billion, little McMansionville, and that's long gone, like most of what I'm going to show you. Six Gun Territory in Ocala had a really nice sign. This is an interesting sign. This is Everglades Wonder Gardens in Bonita Springs, which you may have heard about. Actually closed last year and has since reopened. But the word wonder was actually originally reptile. It was Everglades Reptile Gardens. And they got a lot of complaints from men saying that their wives wouldn't stop there because it said Reptile Gardens. So they did change it. That was the reason. This is one of the greatest attractions ever in Florida was Tom Gaskin's Cypress Museum in Palmdale, which is a small town pretty much in the middle of nowhere between Clewiston and Sebring. And he had these carved signs that were all along US 27. Some of them were kind of like the Burma shave type of sign with the rhymes and so forth. Tom was a really interesting guy, but he passed away in the mid-90s, and the attraction has since closed. It's still there, but it's all overgrown and vandalized, and there's really nothing left of it. But it was a legendary stop along 27. Weeki Wachee always had a very attractive arrow sign, which was a big photo op for tourists. And I believe many of you will see Weeki Wachee tomorrow. Again, the entrance signs, roadside signs are a very important part of attractions. I mean, before the interstate and TV and so forth, the signs and the entrances had to be in a way to make you want to stop. That was their way of advertising. And they were also a big photo op. As you can see, there's in front of every one of these photos, there's somebody posing. This sign is really kind of off the subject a little bit, but it's just a fantastic sign. This was at Gandy Boulevard and 4th Street here in St. Pete, and it promoted Web City, which was the big attraction downtown here. And the sign is just, it's spectacular. And the building is still there. The sign is long gone. But these are the things that really made Roadside Florida special. And this sign in particular is just amazing. On the right are 2 billboards advertising attractions, and on the left are smaller signs that you used to see, directional signs that were all around St. Petersburg for Sunken Gardens. You would see that flamingo sign in several locations, and then in Winter Haven, Cypress Gardens would use that small sign with the with the Southern Belle advertising their attraction. And you can't go wrong with having Jesus at your entrance. This was Bible Land in Kissimmee, Florida, believe it or not, which only lasted a few years. And just one of the many small attractions that faded away. I'm going to touch on this very briefly, but one thing that was really big in the 30s and 40s was auto signage, and especially bumper toppers. These are really hard to find. Basically, if you went to an attraction like Silver Springs or Wakulla Springs, they would tie these to your bumper free of charge, and they wanted you to advertise their attraction, so you just drive off with their sign on. They wouldn't last long, but they were really neat signs, and I especially like the Marine Studios sign and the die cut in the shape of a dolphin, which was really cool. Many of you are probably familiar with license toppers, which would be attached to your license plate. And these are really cool items, really nice eye candy, and very collectible. And almost every attraction, major attraction in Florida had them at one time or another. And then it evolved more into bumper stickers, decals, things like that. But the automobile signage was certainly a big part of advertising for attractions back in the day. I'm going to talk now about actual entrances to the attractions, and this is probably the most iconic entrance of any Florida attraction. This is Gatorland in Kissimmee. And to this day, it's still probably the most photographed entrance of any attraction in Florida. And just to show you what this attraction looked like before they built that, so you can see how things evolved and how the promoters, realized that this would bring in a lot more people than that. So. This photo really doesn't do this justice, but this is the entrance to Marineland in near St. Augustine, and it's a spectacular entrance, beautiful landscape architecture, and the attraction has changed dramatically. It's now owned by the Georgia Aquarium. All the original buildings are pretty much gone, but the entrance is still, you could take that same photo today. It's a very iconic photo from Florida. I think this is one of the most spectacular signs or entrances ever. This is the Miami Serpentarium, which was actually in Kendall, a little bit south of Miami on US 1. The giant cobra, again, just a spectacular job of creating it. When the attraction closed in 1984, it was moved to one of the high schools that had the mascot name of Cobra, and then Hurricane Andrew destroyed it in 1992. But Bill Haas, the owner of the Serpentarium, you may have read about him. He was bitten 173 times by poisonous snakes, and he always felt that snake venom was had a lot of medicinal value to it, and he could have been right because he passed away last year at the age of 101. So if you want to get a snake bite, we'll see what happens there. This is another great one. This is Caspers Alligator Farm. This had a number of different names. It originally started as the Oldest City Alligator Farm was the name of it. This is not the St. Augustine Alligator Farm. This was one on US 1 that was actually a competitor. The attraction was actually significant in that it was the largest distributor of alligator products in the country back in the 40s and 50s. So if you ever had an alligator handbag or shoes or belts or anything, that's probably where it came from. But at one point, they put in this big alligator to obviously bring in the business, and I don't know why he has a cigar in his hand. I haven't figured that out yet. But when they closed in 1986, the alligator was moved to a public playground in St. Augustine, and it's still there. The chimp farm on US 1 in Dania, which is near Fort Lauderdale, was a landmark in that area for a number of years. It's certainly an impressive, if you drove by it, I think a lot of kids would certainly want to stop there and see what's going on. And the good old Dinosaur. This was a really obscure attraction in Wildwood, and obviously the big dinosaur was there to get you to come in, and then inside the attraction there was other dinosaurs, and some of them are still there. It's a privately owned development now, but if you look real hard you can find a few of them. If you are familiar with this area and drive on I-4, you'll know that there's an attraction called Dinosaur World, and all along the interstate they have big dinosaurs like that, so the theme still works. You know, I hate the word tourist trap, and in all my research of Florida attractions, I've only found two that I would really call tourist traps. One was called Tarzan Park in Vero Beach, and this guy charged 25 cents to go see all these artifacts, archaeological artifacts, which he had planted there. And then this one, I've yet to figure out what this was all about. It went by the name of Ocala Caverns, and then it became Uranium Valley, which is, you know, kind of strange. But a heck of an entrance, and certainly one of the most memorable from that standpoint. Treasure Land in Tampa had a big sailing ship as their entrance, and then Storyland in Pompano Beach, of course, was a children's attraction. Had some very nice architecture as well. This is a really interesting attraction because if you look at it, the theme of the architecture, it's actually a ship, you know, with the portholes and the smokestack and so forth. It's a really appealing building, and that was located on US 1, actually just south of Daytona Beach. I really like this photo. It's taken in the early 30s, and it shows what a lot of the attractions were like back in the 30s as far as the entrance. It's a real simple, yet very native looking. It had the obligatory fake alligator photo op in the front. They changed it in the late 30s to what's shown in the upper right, which is still, I think, a really nice looking attraction. This was one of the oldest operating attractions in Miami for many years. It went by many different names. The last name was Parrot Paradise, but it was located just a few blocks from the Orange Bowl, if you're familiar with Miami. And of course, Ross Allen's Reptile Institute, which was a landmark of Silver Springs for many years. They had a pioneer log cabin as part of their entrance, and they were one of the few attractions that says pay as you leave, which I thought was kind of interesting. One thing about every Florida attraction, and this certainly isn't anything new, but you had to walk through the gift shop to get in and out of it, and makes a lot of sense. And that you'll see that pattern in every attraction. This was the original entrance to Sunken Gardens here in St. Pete. Very beautiful little building. It's still there. You really can't see it anymore. You can see the back side of it when you're in the gardens. The front side you can't see. But just a really pretty little building. And I just showed these so you could kind of see the evolution of the entrances to two attractions. On the left is Sunken Gardens with three different versions of the entrance. The bottom one was one they did in the late 70s, a really contrived kind of thing, and you had to walk through there and go through this long, enormous gift shop to get to the gardens entrance. Parrot Jungle on the right, you can see how their entrance evolved over the years. You know, some entrances were very simple. This is a Monkey Jungle, actually in Goulds, Florida, which is about 20 miles south of Miami. And this is how a lot of them were back in the 30s, early 40s. It's very simple entrances. On the left side, you can see how Tropical Hobbyland, which was basically a Seminole Indian attraction, evolved its original entrance, and then how in the 50s it became more like other attractions with the big sign. And then on the right is another just mom and pop attraction, Sarasota Reptile Farm. I think one of the most beautiful buildings in Florida attractions is the Shell Factory near Fort Myers. This photo really doesn't do it justice, but it's a very beautiful entrance. It's still there, but it's all boarded up. They have a different entrance now, which I don't get, but this is really, really pretty building. I thought this was kind of interesting. These are two postcards of Florida Reptile Land, which you know, they're almost the same. It's a gas station with an attraction in the back. The ironic thing is, this is two different attractions, 200 miles apart from each other. So it was the exact same name. It's really interesting how that evolved. But that's, again, how many of the smaller attractions were in Florida in the 50s and early 60s. The entrepreneurs just, you know, they had a gas station or a gift shop or whatever, and they just expanded it to try to get more people in. And that really concludes my presentation. This is, you know, I don't even know exactly where this is. I think it's along the Tamiami Trail, but it just kind of sums up what Florida's Roadside is all about. And you see a gift shop with flamingos and the giant alligator to get people in. But, you know, keep in mind that somebody thought it was worth photographing, and that's sort of what it's all about, the photo ops of Florida's Roadside. So thank you for listening.